Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast for Podcasters Podcast. Today, we're going to look at how people find new podcasts. So, we're going to do this as a solo episode instead of having the guest like we normally do. And I'm going to share with you guys everything I've learned over the last 5 years of working with podcasts. So, a little bit about me so you know where I'm coming from. I started writing show notes for podcasts just over 5 years ago, and between now and then have worked for just about over 50 shows. Some of which have ranked number one in their category. And I've worked with everything from tiny single producer shows with very small audiences of 10 to 100 people to bigger, more corporate business shows, some of which have had episodes that have reached over 250,000 people and had promotions and shorts that have reached millions of people on platforms like TikTok and YouTube. So one of the things I'll touch base on later is about how you can promote your podcast through socials and how important that is. So first of all, how do people find new podcasts? So the number one way someone is going to find a new podcast is through it being recommended by them from someone they know, like, and trust. So how are they going to find that recommendation? It's likely going to be from you, the podcast host. So it's important that you network as much as possible with other podcasters and with other people in general. And just always talk about your podcast. Don't stop talking about it. People get worried that people are going to get frustrated or bored with them speaking about their podcast the whole time. But if you're talking to the right people about it, people who are interested in your show, people who can gain value in your show, then they should be really excited to hear about your podcast. So I was talking to a guest, Jeremy Klein, and he was talking about how he uses Reddit to find guests. So, not guests, sorry, listeners. So he will find someone on Reddit who has asked a particular question. He'll answer that question, give that person some value, and he'll say, if you want to find out more, you can listen to this related episode and link his show. So don't put your show out to anybody who's not interested and they're talking about something completely different. But if they're interested in your topic, tell them about it. So spread the word, network, and don't stop talking about it. The other really important way is to promote yourself on socials. So hopefully you've already got a network that you can reach out to. Otherwise, you might have to take a bit more time building one up. But the great thing about using social media platforms is we're at a very unique time in history at the moment where you can create a podcast like the one I'm creating at the moment that I'll post on all the different podcasting platforms. But from this, I can also cut down 5 to 10 shorts and I can post them on YouTube Shorts. I can post them on Instagram. I can post them on TikTok. I can put them on LinkedIn. So from this one bit of content I'm creating, I can actually create 40 or 50 different unique digital footprints online. And that's really quite powerful. So as I said earlier, with some of the episodes I've worked on in the past, just from the clips we've put on TikTok, we've got millions of views. Or the clips we've put on YouTube Shorts have got hundreds of thousands of views. And sometimes this is for a show where the episode itself may have only got a couple of thousand of views. So it's a really great way to reach a wider audience. Someone who's really good at doing this, it's the podcast king, Joe Rogan. And often you'll realize that you are always seeing his content online. And that is because from every 2-hour episode that he does, he'll have chopped up 100 of these little clips, which can really, really get a new audience in. So that's a really great way. Now, the main topic of this episode that I want to talk about how to get new listeners, is SEO, search engine optimization. Now, this, as a show notes writer, is what I've spent the last 5 years becoming obsessed with, and I find it absolutely fascinating. How can you help people that you've never met before, that aren't in your network, that maybe don't have a presence online themselves? How do you help that person find your show? So the first thing to really bear in mind and remember is that your audio isn't search engine optimized. Google does not know what you're talking about. It can't analyze this audio. It doesn't know what I'm talking about apart from the title of my podcast and the description of my podcast. So those two things are really important. Now, what really hurts me to see is some people will spend so much time and effort on creating their show. They'll spend 2 hours in preparation, half an hour recording it, 2 hours in post-production editing it, and then the title will be episode 5. Or today I talk about SEO. Let's use this episode as an example. If I just titled this episode Search Engine Optimization or SEO, SEO tips, SEO techniques. They're so bland and boring. No one's going to be interested in that. You need a title which grabs people's attention, where they think, I have to listen to this, or I'm going to miss out on really valuable information. It's going to bug me all day if I don't listen to this episode. So for something like this episode, I haven't come up with a title yet, but it might be something like how to get people to listen to your podcast, how to find new listeners, the trick to getting new people to find your show, SEO explained, how to bring more listeners to your show, something where it really shows what the value is. Now, not only does that show the value to the listener, it shows it to the search engine. So now the search engine knows exactly what kind of people are going to be getting value from my show. So the title is something you should really spend some time thinking about and making important. The same goes for the title of the actual podcast show itself. So again, using this show as an example, the Podcast for Podcasters podcast. If I'm looking for a podcast for podcasters, I'll search podcast for podcasters, and then hopefully my show will come up. If I'd made the title of my show something more ambiguous or something a bit more random, people wouldn't be able to find the show. So this is what's important, finding the show. So you've got the importance of the name of your show, the importance of the title of the episode, and now the really, really great thing you can do is fill the description with loads of SEO terms. So you don't want to make it look janky or look bad, but you can fill it with all these terms in a really organic way that also adds value to your listener. So the first way to do this is through topics covered. So in every episode, like you can see if you look at the show notes of this episode, I'll have topics covered and there'll be 6 to 10 bullet points. Each of those bullet points will tell the listener what they're going to learn about in the show. But more importantly, they'll tell the search engine what kind of people to direct to the show. So each one of those bullet points has been very carefully worded so that it's hitting keywords, and especially long tail keywords. I'm never going to rank on Google for the term search engine optimization or SEO. There's too much noise, there's too much traffic out there, it's not going to happen. However, there's the potential of me ranking for a more obscure term, such as what makes a podcast description rank highly on Google search engine. I would check to see if there's a lot of results about that already. If not, it's a great term to try and rank for, and I'll put that in my podcast description. So that's a great way through the topics covered. Equally, through the guest's description. If you have a guest on, you can write a description for that guest. You can very easily rank on the search engine through using that guest's name, title, and role. So they may only come up on their LinkedIn profile, maybe their Facebook or some other social medias, but you could get your episode, your interview on the first page of Google easily whenever anybody searches that person's name, which can be a great way to bring more listeners to your show. Finally, the resource section. Backlink everything you can, every resource that's mentioned. Not only, again, this adds value to the listeners. If they want to find a resource that's talked about, they can visit the show notes, click on the link, there you go, they can learn more. Also, this is going to make you look more authoritative for Google. It's going to show that you're linking to these high value websites. And again, it's going to increase the likeliness of you ranking higher on the search engine results. Another great thing you can do on your website is to put a transcript of each episode. This is a great way to hit those SEO terms because it's going to have everything that's talked about in a way that Google can understand. Just as I said earlier, it can't understand the audio, but if you have it written down, it can understand everything. So there's loads of AIs that you can use to do this, and especially with the advancement in AIs recently, there's some really good ones out there. I know there's some free services like otter.ai. However, what I will advise is that whatever is produced, you have a human read through and edit so that it does read well and it's not full of mistakes, full of stutters, the right words are capitalized. It's still bringing value to the person that gets to that web page, and they're not being directed there thinking this has just been created by a robot and clicking off immediately. They're actually saying, oh, this does add some value, I'm going to listen to the whole episode. So I could go on about SEO forever, and search engine optimization really is a subject which is so nuanced and you could spend a lifetime thinking about and researching. and talking to others about. But I'm going to try and keep this really short and really focused on just the podcast show notes and the aspects that I'm really specialized in from the time that I've spent working in this field. So really focus on the title of your episode. That is really important. You make the title of your episode intriguing, engaging, and related to the content of the show. Fill your description with search engine optimized terms, especially in the topics covered section, the guest's description, and also finally to include backlinks in your resources to help listeners find out more about what you're talking about, but also to show to the search engines that you are linking people to high valued sites. So thank you for listening, everybody. Please let me know if you like this kind of format, if this has been helpful at all, if you prefer listening to somebody else talk and not listening to me ramble on. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have a great day. Good luck with your podcasting, and thanks for supporting the show. Cheers.